Welcome to the Digital Culture Podcast, a podcast for people working in the creative and cultural sector and want to know more about digital. I'm your host, James Akers. Welcome to this episode of the Digital Culture Podcast. I'm James, one of the tech champions at the Digital Culture Network. I'm a middle-aged white man with brown hair, wearing a purple t-shirt. My guest today is one of the Digital Culture Award winners, Samia Malik.
Hello, really nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I am Samia Malik. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm originally from Pakistan. At the moment, I am sitting with a black and white dress on, some nice silver jewelry. I've got glasses, I've got silver hair, and very excited to be here.
The Digital Culture Network Award is slightly different from the other awards for the Digital Culture Awards. With the other categories, people had to apply and put forward an application and talk about their project. Whereas this was slightly different because across the Tech Champion team, we had a discussion about who we thought were worthy winners of doing really interesting and amazing digital work. And Samia won. It wasn't just one nomination, there were multiple nominations from across the team. So today it'd be great to talk about why you first got in touch with the Digital Culture Network, what that journey was like, and how digital has impacted your project.
Yeah, I'm delighted to have won it, obviously. And it just makes me laugh that there were a few of you that nominated me because I might be your very best customer at the moment. I think I've seen quite a lot of your team over the last 3 years. So if I just explain a little bit about what I do, I'm a freelance singer, songwriter. I'm also a visual artist, a producer and a teacher. And for many years, I'm in my early 60s now, so since I was in my mid to late 20s, I've written and I've toured and I've produced music. I've also been teaching, so I was also a school teacher, but that's like incidental because that's not what we're here to talk about. But also taught a lot of music workshops. And it was like the traditional model where I was writing some songs, getting a band together, performing the songs, touring the songs, releasing the music, trying to get funding to do all of that, and then starting again. I also did a lot of workshops. And because I'm from a Pakistani Muslim female background, my work's very much about my own experience. So I write in my first language, Urdu. I use traditional Asian forms. I use traditional Asian instruments. I've worked with a lot of amazing artists. And the workshops that I ended up doing over the last, I would say, 9 years or so, I work in any community settings, but I work especially in women's centres, Asian and Black women's centres, working with women who are maybe being supported through domestic violence, because I'm a survivor of domestic violence and a lot of my work is informed by all of those experiences. I'm unusual in that not many people from my background do what I'm doing so visibly and so audibly, I suppose is the word. So why this all happened, and I was thinking about this morning, I thought, it did start there. The pandemic started. I just started a tour of workshops. I'd done one. Pandemic happened. Of course, that went. Who knew what was going to happen? We didn't know whether we were going to start touring again or even seeing each other. And I was a bit like, what am I doing? What do I need to do? I thought what I really need to do is make a studio, a home studio, and use new technology to reach audiences digitally, but also use new technology to create music instead of needing to have a studio. The cost of a studio is so prohibitive. And I wanted to learn about music technology anyway. So the project Songs to Heal and Empower started in 2021 as we were coming out of the pandemic, where I got some funding and built a home studio. I have an artist studio anyway because I'm a visual artist. But within there, I made a little booth and made a home recording studio to record and to learn. And it's all about using new technology in a different way. Because up to then, I had just basically done, as I say, the model of working with live musicians and touring with live musicians. And I was thinking, there's a digital world out there. So that was opening up more. And it was because of the pandemic. So I was realizing the importance of social media and reaching people and coming out of my echo chamber. Because although I've done a lot of work for a lot of years, nobody's ever heard of me. Because I don't fit into any category. I write songs about my own experience. It's almost like a new genre. I never know quite how to describe myself. But it's songs that are about my experience using the music and literature forms of both the cultures that I belong to. At the beginning of that, I was also working with a woman called Dr. Isabel Anderson, who does a lot of online courses for women and music technology. She's got this group called Girls Twiddling Knobs, which of course is fantastic. and it's kind of international. So I suppose maybe that was it influential as well, just in terms of how she was working with women all over the world. But she had somebody who was a real digital expert on her team and asked her, I budgeted that into that Arts Council project fund and said, Francesca, can you help me? So she helped me a little bit at the beginning. And at the same time, I got in touch with Digital Culture Network. I had in my application said I would try to reach people digitally, and I'd put in something like 400,000 people. So Francesca was really super helpful. But then at the same time, I got in touch with Nicola from your team. And well, the wonderful thing about your network is that you are all industry experts in your field. And for people like me, eligible for Arts Council funding or in receipt of Arts Council funding, of freelancers who don't know all that about everything, can't know everything, we're individual people. It was just like the penny dropped. I could actually access somebody like Nicola and then later other members of your team for free. And you were just there and you'd work at the level that I was at. Although I'd started doing the kind of social media planning with Francesca, I only had her for a few hours. But then I could meet with Nicola and I suddenly realised the importance of not just doing an occasional post, oh, I've got this gig, and then it all disappears into nowhere, but actually the importance of having a big strategy that straddles the whole of the project. And the importance of small strategic ads and actually looking at the data. I'd said all that in my application. Of course, I know the words, but I hadn't really done it. I didn't really know how to. I'm busy enough right now, so I was doing everything else, putting the grants together, putting the bands together. But it's really difficult to have that kind of knowledge as well. So that year was great because I made the studio, I recorded, and I did a first sharing of the new material, which I was doing solo, using new technology to perform it. So I actually had a laptop on stage and pressed buttons and looped things. It would have been nice to actually loop and create stuff on stage, but I was a beginner. So I was like, press the button, get it going, be a bit backing bandy, it's fine. But I was creating the loops. So that was all very exciting. So the first part of the project was finishing the sharing, and the second part I wanted to actually finish recording and tour this work and do it with workshops. So that's where the Digital Culture Network came in particularly. And so that year I did the tour, which was lots of workshops and lots of actual live performances. I think maybe about 11 of each one of those all around the country. And when we came to looking at the figures at the end of it, there was this moment where I was sitting with you and looking at figures and we went, how many is that? Oh, it's 2.5 million. And we both did a little squeal because I hadn't looked at it because I hadn't known where to find it. So that was like, wow, I'd really hit my targets and then some.
Yeah, and then some. Come on.
I'm like, really, seriously, I was over the top in terms of I was social media posting every single day, but I learned how to schedule things in. And I would sit for like a whole day and just make loads and loads of posts. In fact, I went away for a month just before the album launched, and there was a post every single day on Instagram and Facebook. But I realized at the end that I didn't have to do that much work. But actually, breaking out my echo chamber very much was using those ads and targeting them more carefully. And I didn't have to bore my social media followers by every single day posting and also use up so much of my time and energy. An ad takes a small amount of energy and a small amount of money, but it goes much further. So you have to think about how much your time as an artist is worth as well.
So you went from doing all these organic posts, which is very labour intensive, to then starting with ads. So where did that come from? Was that through the discussions with Nicola and you went, I'm going to try this?
Yeah, it was very much through discussions with Nicola. And I don't think I even had an ad budget because when I'd gone for that application, I hadn't actually realised how important that was. But because we were just doing small ads, I could just use some of my contingency and move things around my budget so that I could do it. And I realised how effective it was. Because I think the first one we did was using a meta ad just to increase subscribers because I'd put that as one of my targets. I'd said I would increase my social media followers by 1,000. And within a few weeks, I was at 3,000. It was quite extraordinary. Every day there was just like, the numbers were just going up. And these were engaged followers. They were actually following my posts and commenting, which was amazing. So talk about breaking out the echo chamber. And this was a very small spend and a small amount of my energy being spent on that. That was quite an eye-opening moment.
And you mentioned it was a small budget. What figures are we talking about?
At the time, I think it was £2 a day for about 3 months. That's all we did. It wasn't a massive amount of money, but it was a massive return on that money and time. If you think about my studio costs, the costs of being self-employed, all of those things that we do as freelancers, and then suddenly to think, oh, that's very small budget. Also, I think your other colleague, Dean, when I wasn't in receipt of funding and suddenly I had no money, because that's the reality for us freelancers, you either have money or you have nothing, and you don't know where you're going to get it. Dean said to me, still put £1 in every day out of your own pocket. It costs less than a coffee. And I thought, he's right. They send £30 a month. And that carried that kind of energy on, even when I was not in receipt of funding. I thought, yes, I can afford £1 a day. I probably wouldn't go much less than that, but £1 a day for most of us, it's not that much. The returns are great.
And how did you come to the targeting of those ads? Because when you go into these ad platforms, you can select the whole world and everybody.
I think I'm very lucky in some ways because of my background, because I'm Asian, because I'm from Pakistan, and because the language I use, Urdu, is also understood widely in India, because Urdu and Hindi are identical virtually. The languages themselves, if you, for example, watch Bollywood films, which was quite an inspiration for me as I was growing up, you will understand even though that's all in Hindi. And because the Bollywood connection with my songs in that I used a lot of the same musical motifs and scales and rhythms of those kinds of songs, then my natural audience for me is in Pakistan and India and anywhere in the world where they listen to or enjoy Bollywood music. The main target was India, and India just happens to be very cheap as well. So I think that's why my ads work really well. The costs were like a tenth lower than in Europe, for example. So yeah, in that case, I was very lucky.
And you mentioned you did some live streaming, you did some advertising and embracing the various different bits of technology. Were there any specific challenges that you faced when you were going through that process?
Yeah, I had to learn a lot, and I still feel like I'm quite a beginner in all of this. I think the challenges were I misunderstood how much of the social media organic posts I need to do. So that took a lot of time, especially when I had to be away from home. And so if I could go back and advise myself, I'd say, don't do so much of that. You can spend your energy on other things. I think the hardest thing is just being a freelancer and the actual logistics of doing the tour and doing the posts and keeping everything in the air all at once. What was really great, though, was having the support of the team so that I could go, oh, I need something on my website improved, or I need to think about selling things. There was a lot of support, which as a freelancer, I've never really experienced before. I was so used to working by myself and getting my head in a pickle around all these kind of complex things on the websites and code and embedding things and all of that. I think it's really important to say that the experience of all of that completely has changed my work, the focus of my work, so that my new project, which is called Azadi, A Journey to Freedom, has got a really digital focus, so that I'm doing a lot of the same workshops with the same kind of marginalized groups. So I was talking about women in maybe women's centres, but I'm also working with isolated rural communities who may not have experienced much of Asian music. Because for me, it's all about raising awareness for people of the issues that I'm talking about, but also about the music, the traditions that I come from. So if I can go into a community group in Thetford and talk about Asian music and get them to do some singing, it's like opening that dialogue between different groups of people, which I think is really important. And that's as important as me going to a women's centre and singing songs in Urdu that women go, oh, I've never heard anybody singing that in my language. So it's like a mirror for those people, but it's like a bridge for other people. So that live element is still really important in terms of building my audience this year for the beginning of this new project. But at the same time, I'm really very much building an online audience. I'm very carefully targeting. So at the moment, we're on awareness. And then the next thing I'm going to do is target those people who have watched, say, 25% of my ad or watched it all through, and then trying to get them to join my mailing list. And in the end, come and join me for the live online shows I want to do, because that's what the project has focused on. Instead of going around the world and performing to 100 people, I can be in my studio and perform to 1,000 people and leave it on YouTube, because I've realized that's the most stable platform for my audience. And then it will stay there and it will be like an online legacy. I was looking just this morning out of interest. I thought, I'll just have a look. It's an 18-month phase A project. There'll be another 18 months phase B. And looking at the figures last time, I said, in 6 months, I reached 2.5 million. 3 times that. I'm going to reach 7.5 million in 18 months. It's been going for 3 months. And this morning, just on the meta ads, I've hit over 3 million impressions, 2 million views, 214,000 plays of my one little ad.
Wow.
That's just that. And from the Google one, it's just been going for about 3 weeks. Again, 170,000 impressions, 43,000 views. So these are amazing figures out of my echo chamber where then I can use that idea of the funnel, which I haven't actually successfully done because the last one was very much about awareness. But the idea is that then I can get these people to join me and hope on the live shows. That would be, for me, success. And then at the end of it, it will be that everything then, some of it which is created using new technology, will be available globally using new technology, which I think for a freelance artist like myself, it's just mind-blowing. That's possible. You don't have to just play to 100 people. You could curate an event for people that they can then join and become part of it. I want it to be a kind of online community that people can join and talk about the issues. So there's got a lot of learning still to be done, but yeah, really exciting. And it wouldn't have happened without that awareness suddenly that there's a big digital world out there. And there's something very democratic about music that's on YouTube because anyone, anywhere, with internet access can access it. And I think that's a super powerful thing, especially for a world that's quite fragmented and in some ways quite scary and in some ways quite isolating, that the power of art through that, we can make those connections. For me, that's where it's really powerful.
It's fantastic. You're a worthy winner for everything that you've done. As you say, as a freelancer, doing all the work, being an artist, doing all those performances, but also managing to implement this over a long period of time. You've not just thrown effort in at one stage. You've done a consistent and dedicated approach to embedding digital across your practice. And it's been wonderful for us to see as a team. And now you're talking about marketing funnels and taking people on a journey through it and using different digital activities at different stages and the metrics behind those. It's just fantastic for us to see.
I do feel still a beginner. Somebody asked me to talk on another panel and I said, I'm a beginner, I don't know anything. And she said, but you've just won an award. And I thought, yeah, that's true. I have won an award, so I do know some things. And then I thought back to how I felt and knew the words, but I didn't really know how to do it. And I felt actually I have changed hugely. And it was a delight to win that, but it's more of a delight to know all of this stuff and know which way it's going next. I think in a way it's like taking your vision out of the music that you're in, which is quite hard because actually all I want to do is go and practice and write new stuff. I have to go, no, the marketing part of it is a really important part of it. And I suppose I'd always thought somebody else would do that. Somebody's going to come along and take all of this and push it out there, but I have to do it myself. And it's quite nice to do it the way I want to do it. Curating this work and putting it online the way I want it to be feels like a really worthy use of my time rather than writing another song. But I'll probably write another song secretly somewhere.
So what advice would you give to other artists looking to expand their digital footprint?
It's funny, I keep saying everywhere, if you're in England, speak to Digital Culture Network. I said it last night. I was in a workshop. So firstly, speak to Digital Culture Network. Anything digital that you have any questions about. If you're eligible for Arts Council funding, and it doesn't have to mean that you're in receipt of it, you can access support from real experts who will reach you where you are, not above where you are, but absolutely exactly where you are. So don't hesitate to do that. And secondly, what I said earlier about ads, meta ads or YouTube ads, you can take a small video, a minute. I think shorts work well on YouTube, that's less than a minute. Or if you make one video and just put it on YouTube as an ad or put it on Meta, on whatever other social media platforms you're on, with £1 a day. And I think it just makes it go much further. And I think it's just a much better use of your time as an artist to do that rather than to do organic posts. We don't even understand how those algorithms work. You put loads of stuff out there and nobody's seen it. The other thing I would say is grow your email list. Email list is what you own and your website is yours. But social media platforms, we haven't got complete control over them. But we can use the fact that they do have such huge audiences.
That's really good advice. And Jacqueline, I'd love to hear you talk about email marketing.
It just clicked. That is what I own. So again, that realization came after I'd got the funding. It took me over a year to get the funding for this project and 5 applications. So I had to be very dedicated to it. But you have to just work really hard. And then when and if you get the funding, then it's just, yes, I can do the thing I want to do.
Based on your experience with the Digital Culture Network, what would you tell anyone thinking about getting in touch with us?
I would just say, don't hesitate. Just do it. If you're not sure, I think at the beginning you just basically put your question in, don't you? And then your team will just say, it's this person you need to go to. Yeah. And I don't think any question is too small, really. So I would just say, just do it. It's free. And I would just like to say thank you, Arts Council, for realizing that those of us who are freelancers need support like this. It means our projects are much more likely to succeed because I'm not part of an organisation. I do now have partners like the Norwich Theatre and Catapult Arts, but it's still very difficult for me as a freelancer to walk into their corridors and say, can I speak to somebody about marketing? Whereas with Digital Culture Network, I can just ring or email and have the support that I need across a big area of disciplines. So I would say just do it. Don't hesitate, do it, and keep Digital Culture Network going because we need it. If I'm getting funding as an artist, this is public funding. It's in everybody's interest that my project succeeds. And with support like you're giving, I'm much more likely to succeed. It's a lot more likely to reach the audiences that I'm trying to reach with that kind of support. I think it's so useful, so necessary.
As I said before, you're now on panels and talking about your experience. And that just shows your skills and your competence have all increased.
Yeah, it really does. And as I say, I thought, oh, but I'm a beginner. But I think that's because there's so much more to learn. And luckily, you're all experts in your niches. So I don't have to know everything. I can just say, James, where do I find this thing?
Yeah, that's what we're here for. If people want to find out more about your project and your work, where should they go?
So the new project, as I mentioned, has got such a digital focus. And if any of your listeners are interested, they can look on my website, which is samiamalik.com. Do sign up to my newsletter. Keep in the know. I'll even send you a free MP3. Come and join this community that I'm trying to build online, and releases of the songs and visuals and the narrative will come towards the second part of next year. So there's quite a lot going on in the meantime. But yeah, come and join me.
It's been wonderful to chat to you today, Samia, and learn about your project and how the Digital Culture Network has helped. Congratulations on your award.
Thank you so much. And thank you very much for nominating me.